The darkest night of my life? Feel haven't turned the lights off. It's been 3 days, and I'm sitting here in a room so bright it hurts my eyes, surrounded by every lamp and flashlight I own. Because I know that the moment the bulb flickers out, the darkest night of my life isn't over. It's just waiting for the cover of a shadow to finish what it started. People talk about pitch black like it's just a lack of light, but they're wrong. True darkness has weight. It has a pulse. It has a hunger. And on that Tuesday night, in a house I had lived in for 5 years, the darkness grew hands and started reaching for me. The silence that screams it began at exactly 11:42 p.m. I remember the time stumped because I was staring at the bottom right corner of my monitor, watching. The seconds tick by as I struggle through a massive data entry project. The house was quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a sleeping home, but a pressurized, artificial silence. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room, leaving behind a vacuum that made my ears pop. I could hear the blood rushing through my veins, a dull throb. That seemed to sync with the blinking cursor on my screen. The first thing to go was the hum. My PC's cooling fan, a constant white noise I'd grown to rely on, simply stopped. The monitor stayed on a glowing, rectangular island in the dark, but the mechanical life of the machine vanished. The silence that followed was terrifying. It was the kind of silence that feels like it's listening to you. I sat perfectly still, my fingers hovering over the home row of my keyboard, afraid that even the sound of a single keystroke would alert something to my presence. Then came the sound. From the hallway, schlick, schlick, slick, dotted, was wet, rhythmic. It sounded like a heavy piece of raw meat being dragged across the hardwood floor. Each slide was followed by a long, agonizing pause, as if whatever was making the noise was catching its breath or tasting the air. I looked at the door. It was cracked open just enough to see a sliver of the hallway. Usually, the bathroom nightlight cast a soft, reassuring amber glow across the floorboards. But tonight, the hallway was a wall of solid, impenetrable ink. It wasn't just dark. It was a void that seemed to be leaking into my office. I reached for my phone on the desk, my hands shaking so violently that my fingernails tapped against the wood clack. Clack, clack, and the sound felt as loud as a gunshot in that pressurized silence. The sliding noise in the hall stopped instantly. My heart didn't just race. It hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I told myself it was the pipes. I told myself the house was settling. But then the smell hit me. It wasn't the smell of something dead. It was the smell of something that had never been alive. It was metallic, like copper, mixed with the ozone scent of a coming storm and the cloying, sweet smell of lilies at a funeral. The first Polaroid 10 minutes passed. I stayed locked in that position, my muscles cramping, my eyes watering because I was afraid to blink. I stared at that sliver of darkness in the doorway, waiting for a hand to curl around the wood or an eye to peer through the crack. That's when I saw the fingers. They didn't come from the handle. They slid along the floor, through the gap at the bottom of the door. They were impossibly long for joints, instead of two-end. The skin was a translucent, bruised gray, like the flesh of a fish left out in the sun. The nails were jagged, yellowed, and scraped against the floor with a sound that made my teeth ache. The fingers pushed a small, square object into my room. A Polaroid. As soon as the photo cleared the door, the fingers snapped back into the shadows, with the sound of a whip cracking. I waited another 5 minutes, my breath coming in ragged gasps, before I dared to move. I snatched the photo and retreated to the furthest corner of the room, using the sickly blue light of my monitor to see it. It was me. The photo was taken from a high angle, looking down at my desk. I could see the back of my head, my slouched shoulders, and the glowing screen. But the terrifying part was the time stamp. 11:43 p.m. 1 minute after the silence started. I looked up at the ceiling vent directly above my chair. The slats were dark, but as I stared, I saw a single, thick drop of gray fluid fall from the vent and land silently on my keyboard. I lunged for the door, slammed it shut, and twisted the lock. It was a flimsy privacy lock, and it felt like a toothpick against the weight of the unknown. The digital Mirai backed away from the door until I hit my desk, knocking over a glass of water. My monitor flickered. The spreadsheet was gone. In its place was a live video feed. It was a angle shot of my own hallway. I don't own security cameras. The quality was crystal clear and eerily silent. I watched myself on the screen, or rather, I watched my office door from the outside. Then, from the ceiling vent in the hallway, a shape began to unfold. It didn't drop. It uncurled like a dead spider coming back to life. It was a mass of pale, corded muscle and spindly limbs, moving with a jerky stop-motion twitch. It had no face, just a smooth, pale surface where features should be, except for a single, vertical slit in its chest that pulsed like a gill. On the screen, the creature slid toward my office door. It didn't walk. It seemed to glide through the air, defying physics. It stopped at the door and pressed its featureless face against the wood. Thump. I felt the vibration against my back. The creature was right there. "What do you want?" I screamed, my voice cracking into a sob. The creature on the monitor didn't move, but my computer speakers crackled to life. "I want inside. You," the voice said. It was my voice, but it was wrong. It sounded like someone had taken recordings of me and stitched them together syllable by syllable. It was the sound of a predator mimicking its prey to make it feel safe, but failing miserably. The house that wasn't power didn't just go out, it vanished. The monitor, the desk lamp, the street lights, outside everything, died at once. The darkness that rushed in was physical. It felt cold, like stepping into a freezer. I scrambled to the corner, fumbling for the flashlight on my phone. When the beam finally cut through the black, it landed on the door. The lock was turning. Click. The door creaked open. Beyond it was not my hallway, but an endless, flat expanse of gray concrete. It looked like a parking lot that stretched to the horizon in every direction. There were no stars, no moon, no wind. Above, there was only a void of deep, bruised purple. I stood at the threshold of my office, the light from my phone trembling. The walls of my room were starting to peel away like wet paper, revealing more of that endless gray concrete behind them. "This isn't real," I whispered. "I'm dreaming. I'm having a breakdown." "Is it?" a stitched voice asked. I spun around. Standing in the corner of my office was a figure. It was wearing my clothes, the same faded black hoodie and jeans. It turned around. It was me, but its skin was the texture of dry parchment, and its eyes were gone, replaced by smooth, unbroken skin. "You've spent so much time hiding behind screens," the other me said. "We thought we'd bring the world to you. The real one." I bolted. I ran out of the office and onto the concrete wasteland. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like lead. But no matter how far I ran, when I looked back, my office door was still exactly 10 feet behind me. I was running on a treadmill of reality. The sky opened, I fell to my knees, sobbing. The isolation was absolute. There was no sound of traffic, no distant sirens, nothing. I looked up at the purple void, and that's when the sky began to tear. A line of white light appeared in the zenith. Slowly, the sky pulled apart, and I realized I wasn't looking at a sky at all. I was looking at an eyelid. The sky opened, and a giant, pale eye miles wide stared down at the concrete. I felt the gaze hit me like a physical weight, stripping away my thoughts and my soul. The other me walked out of the office and stood beside me. It's beautiful, isn't it? Total visibility. No secrets. Just ... being seen. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, glowing seed that pulsed like a tiny heart. The night only ends when you accept the dark. Eat this, and you can go back to your little lights and your little lies. But you'll belong to the eye. Every time you blink, you'll be back here. I took the seed and swallowed it. It tasted like copper and every mistake I'd ever made. The false morning I woke up on my office floor at 8 a.m. The sun was streaming through the window. Birds were chirping. I scrambled to my feet, checking my body. No parchment skin. I ran to the window and looked out. The street was there. The sky was blue. I laughed a jagged, hysterical sound. It was just a night terror, a vivid stress and hallucination. I went to the kitchen to make coffee, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. Then I noticed the Polaroid on the counter. It was a photo of me, sitting right where I was now, holding my coffee mug. But in the reflection of the kitchen window, the sky wasn't blue. In the reflection, the giant eye was staring back. I ran to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked normal. Then I blinked. In that microsecond of darkness, I wasn't in the bathroom. I was back on the gray concrete. I was standing in front of the other me, who was holding a long, jagged blade. I opened my eyes, and I was back in the bathroom. I blinked again, and I was back in the desert. He had the knife at my throat. He had the knife at my throat. "Don't blink," he whispered. I snapped my eyes open and haven't closed them since. That was 3 days ago. The descent into paranoia the first 24 hours were manageable. I stayed in the living room, surrounding myself with every lamp I could find. I dragged the floor lamps from the bedrooms, the desk lamps from the office, and even the emergency lanterns from the garage. I sat in a perimeter of artificial brilliance, feeling like an explorer in a cave, terrified that his torch would go out. But by the second night, the small things started to change. I tried to call my mother. I needed to hear a real voice, something. That wasn't a recording. She picked up on the third ring. "Hello?" she said. "Mom, it's me. I'm scared. I need to come home." There was a long, heavy pause. "I want ... see ... inside," stitched together cadence. I threw the phone across the room. It shattered. But even as the screen died, I could hear her voice coming from the wreckage, repeating that phrase over and over until it became a rhythmic chant. I realized then that the world outside my front door wasn't real anymore. It was a projection, a shallow stage set built to keep me from screaming until the eye was finished with me. I looked out the window. The mailman was walking down the street in a perfectly straight line. When he reached the edge of my neighbor's yard, he didn't turn. He just kept walking, straight through the brick wall of their garage, as if it were made of smoke. Kate pulled the curtains shut and stapled them to the frames. The hunger came next. I went to the fridge, but everything inside had turned to that same gray, translucent material. The apples were gray stone. The milk was thick sludge. I haven't eaten in 72 hours. Every time I turn on the tap, the water tastes like liquid copper. It burns my throat. It reminds me of the seed. The twitching reality. By the third night, my eyes began to fail. The muscles that control my eyelids were twitching so violently it felt like insects were crawling under the skin. I tried using Scotch tape to hold them open, but the moisture kept peeling the adhesive back. Finally, I used duct tape. It pulled at the delicate skin, bruising it and making it bleed, but I didn't care. I couldn't afford to blink. If I blinked, I was back in the desert. If I blinked, the knife got closer to my throat. I sat staring at the TV, hoping for a live broadcast to prove time was moving, but the news anchor was just sitting there, staring into the lens. She wasn't speaking. For 6 hours, she didn't even move. Then she blinked. And when her eyes opened, they were gone. Her face was smooth, pale skin. "The eye is watching, David," she said. "The transition is almost complete. Your house is almost gone. Can't you feel the concrete?" I looked down at my feet. The plush carpet was receding. I could see the floorboards underneath, but they were turning gray and featureless. I jumped up, running for the front door, desperate to find a way out of this dissolving cage. I grabbed the handle and pulled. The door didn't lead outside. It led back into my office. I ran through the office, out the office door, and ended up back in the living room. I was trapped in a non-Euclidean loop, a geometric prison designed by something that didn't understand human space. The final hour. Now, I'm sitting back in my office. It's the only room that still feels remotely solid, though the walls are now the color of a fresh bruise. I've run out of tape. My eyes are so dry they feel like they're made of glass. Every time I try to focus on a word, the letters scramble, turning into that vertical slit I saw on the creature's chest. The sun outside is still stuck at 8 a.m., but it's getting darker. Not because the sun is setting, but because the sky, the eyelid is slowly closing. The giant pupil in the sky is narrowing. It's focusing on me. I can feel the heat of its gaze, a psychic pressure that makes my brain feel like it's boiling inside my skull. I can hear the creature now. It's not in the hallway anymore. It's sitting in the chair right next to me. I can't turn my head to look at it, but I can feel its long, four-jointed fingers resting on my shoulder. They are cold. So cold. "It's time, David," the voice says. It's not stitched together anymore. It's my voice. My perfect, living voice. You can't hold it anymore. Just one blink. That's all it takes. Let the dark in. "No," I whisper. My tongue feels like a piece of dry leather. I'm real. This is my house. I am alive. "Look at the photo again," the creature whispers. I look at the Polaroid on the desk. The one of me at my desk. In the photo, I'm not there anymore. The chair is empty. The office is empty. There's just a gray desert stretching out behind the desk. I realize now what the seed was. It wasn't a way back. It was an anchor. It was the thing that tethered my soul to that gray wasteland while the eye digested my reality. The morning I woke up to was just a digestion process. The eye isn't just watching me. It's consuming my memories, my identity, and my world until there's nothing left but a featureless gray shape in a featureless gray void. The lights are starting to dim. Not because the bulbs are dying, but because I'm losing the ability to perceive light. The silence is returning, that heavy, pressurized silence that makes your heart feel like it's going to explode. I can feel my eyelids descending. The muscles have given up. The duct tape has failed. My vision is narrowing. The gray concrete is rising up to meet me. If you see this story, if you read these words, check your clock. If the time hasn't changed in the last 5 minutes, if you smell ozone and lilies, if you hear a sliding sound in your hallway, don't look at the door. Don't look at the screen. And for the love of God, don't blink. The dark isn't just a place, it's a person. And it's standing right behind you. I can see you now. Through the monitor. Through your eyes. The eye is looking through me, and now it sees you. I'm sorry. I was so lonely. I just wanted someone to be here with me in the dark. My eyes are closing. 3, 2, 1,